You've found Wickett on Wisconsin, your one-stop podcast for all things Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and the rest of your favorite teams from all over the state of Wisconsin. We're powered by Wisconsin Sports Heroics, online at wisportsheroics.com and the Wisconsin Podcast Association. And now, here's your host, Mike Wickett.
Welcome in. Kind of an odd time to do a Wickett on Wisconsin podcast, and it feels good to do it here kind of in an emergency form as the Milwaukee Bucks made a big move earlier this morning on the NBA trade deadline's final day. We got about, as I'm recording this, we got an hour and change. So by the time you're listening to this, maybe the trade deadline is over. Not a lot of other moves expected to be made by the Bucks, but I wanted to talk about it with Mitch Lang from Wisconsin Sports Heroics. Follow him on Twitter at I am Mitch Lang, and he has just put his dog away. We appreciate it, Mitch. How are you, man? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing good. I don't want people to think I put him down.
No, that's right. I should have said something different. He put him away so we could talk and not be barked at. I'm going to start off with this, Mitch. I put out a simple tweet a little while ago. Follow me at Mike Wickett, and it's just this: the Bucks are better than they were a couple of hours ago. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I strongly agree. I mean, Dante, he's always been streaky, and especially coming off the injury, he still hasn't gotten back to full form, while Grayson Allen has pretty much replaced him in every way we could hope for, and Pat Connaughton has stepped up, but there wasn't, much room for Dante anymore. So we really needed a big to go with Giannis. Boris is all right, but having Giannis play the center on defense all the time, it limits his transition ability. So having another big guy back there until Lopez comes back really helps.
Yeah, if you missed the deal, basically the Bucks sent out Semi, Rodney Hood, and Dante DiVincenzo, and in return, there's a four-team deal. I don't want to bore people with the specifics, but they added Serge Ibaka, ditched Dante DiVincenzo, and like you kind of mentioned, like the and I've written about this, Grayson Allen was the better player. You can read that, wisportsheroics.com. I wrote that when the trade went down, when they brought in Grayson Allen, Mitch. But between the two guys you mentioned, Allen and Connaughton playing well from the outside, with the fact that Dante isn't getting any better, I know he had the injury, this seemed like trimming the fat almost of a player that you didn't really have a spot for on a roster that needed to be molded like clay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Kings clearly wanted Dante since last year.
Yeah, what's up with that infatuation of Dante Diva? Like, how much do they love Dante in Sac City?
I'll take it. We almost got a steal last year, and then we made a deal happen this time around. I mean, Dante was probably leaving anyway in free agency this coming year, so to get somebody that helps for this season, and they actually got some draft compensation too, that really helps.
Yeah, a couple of picks and second-round picks are what they are. They could turn out to, you never know what they could turn out to be Chris Middleton. They could turn out to be just wasted players. But when you brought up the injury too, and I think this is key. The injury to Brook Lopez obviously necessitated bringing in another big, bringing in a guy like Serge Ibaka. I don't love the move. I don't love the trade. I like the trade. I don't think you can love any move for Serge Ibaka at 32 at this point in his career. But you can like the trade, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not like a blockbuster all-star player move, but I mean, he fills exactly the void that they needed to fill. And on top of that, they got rid of two bad contracts with Semi and Hood to free up space for some other guys potentially in buyouts or more trades. Who knows? But
don't jump the gun on me, Mitch. We haven't got to the buyout market yet. Don't jump the gun here.
They're gonna do, but they've got options. That's all.
They definitely have them, and I think what the Ibaka move does in terms of Brook Lopez, everybody's been freaking out, right? I know. Everybody at Wisconsin Sports Heroics, I've seen the Facebook page, I've seen the posts, everybody wondering, is Brook a wasted, is this a lame duck season for Brook? His back injury, guys don't get better after back injuries. But what this does is it buys time. Ibaka's not going to start. I don't think Ibaka's going to start. I have no idea. I'm usually wrong. I don't think Ibaka's going to start, but he's going to play those meaningful minutes, and hopefully the Bucks can keep playing as well as they have for 3, 4. I mean, maybe we don't see Brook Lopez play for 5 more weeks because they don't need to have him play for 5 more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he fills in the void. I feel like he could start. I don't know if they want to bring Bobby back off the bench because the bench has been so bad this year. But just having another guy who can rim protect while also stretching the floor a bit allows so much more fluidity in our defense and offense. Like Giannis can now be the help defender again, as opposed to just guarding the center. Get on transition and clears up the paint. But I mean, Portis has been great. So like we want to give him his minutes, but maybe they're going to stagger him with Ibaka's minutes like in the lineup. So I don't know. I feel like overall it really gives Bucks a lot of different looks that they can now employ depending on the other opponent's lineup. So
the key to beating the Bucks over the last 4 years has just been build that wall. I mean, that was the way that everybody defended the Bucks, just build the wall. Giannis can't shoot. Mitch, am I crazy to think now that the Bucks at some point could have a Lopez, Serge, Giannis wall? I mean, other teams don't have their superstar who can't shoot from the outside like Giannis in the last couple of years, but now the Bucks can build a wall.
Yeah, they could. I mean, that would open up the three for everybody else, like typical Bucks fashion. But
yeah, the Bucks don't need any help not defending the three. They do that well enough on their own. They've always done that well enough, especially in the postseason when they want to pack the paint. But what it does now, like we're talking about here, it gives them flexibility at the 4 and at the 5, and it allows them more moves. And I don't think you have to rush Brook Lopez back anytime. You could give him time to heal. When he does come back, to have Bobby and Serge coming off the bench, that's a luxury for Bud.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time the Bucks had that many good big men, especially once Lopez is back anyway. The Bucks have had big men in the past, but they've never been on, really high caliber other than maybe 1 or 2. So having Serge, who at times was like a fringe all-star back in the day, just bring that veteran presence off the bench and being able to defend. I mean, that gives the Bucks so many different options. If one goes down again, then we're pretty much back to where we are now, which is still pretty good. But
I mean, they are 35-21. They're a half game out in the East. They lead the Central Division. They're on the upswing. It's amazing. I keep seeing people throw up stats of the Bucks record when Giannis, Chris, and Drew all play, and they have like the best record in the NBA when the big three play. It's like, oh, mind blowing. When the Bucks' 3 best players play, they're really, really good. I expect that to obviously continue. Everybody has to stay healthy. But what I love so much about this move is one of the keys for an NBA coach is to make egos happy. That's why Phil Jackson was so great. He made egos happy. He made Jordan happy. He made Pippen happy. Everybody. That's what made Pat Riley great, and even Spoelstra when he had the big 3 down there in Miami. And not to say that Dante DiVincenzo is on the level of any of these players or in these guys' levels, but when you've got Dante, you've got Grayson Allen, and you've got Pat Connaughton, who all play similar spots, trying to make all 3 guys happy is really difficult. What does this move do, do you think? What does this move do for Pat Connaughton? What do you think this move does for Grayson Allen?
I think it really gives them confidence knowing that they now know the Bucks believe in them. Like the front office is like all for them and giving them extra minutes and that extra confidence. If you ever watch Pat Connaughton, once he hits like 2 threes, he's going to have a great game because he gets that of like, oh, it's one of those days. So giving him that little extra confidence boost every day, I think will pay big dividends in the future. And Grayson, he's been pretty steady. He's obviously had some bad games, but I mean, just that extra bow of confidence for him as well. And going into next year, he'll be confident he's coming back with the Bucks on his extension. So I think they both just feel good about themselves, and confidence is everything with shooting.
Do you think that this move of moving Dante DiVincenzo has been building since they extended Grayson Allen?
I think probably since they traded for Grayson Allen, honestly.
All right.
I mean, they traded for him while Dante was hurt, and then obviously the big tell was when they extended him and not Dante. So it was like, oh wow, Grayson hadn't even played yet, and we extended him. Clearly, they either think that Dante's not coming back for a while, or he's just not meant for them, and especially after they tried to trade him once already. So it's kind of just a matter of them finding the right fit.
I was driving in back here to my studio, and I heard the news of the big deal of Harden for Simmons. Seth Curry is also involved. There's some picks, but really, it's Harden for Simmons is going down. Shams had it. Trade deadline's in an hour and change from right now as you and I are recording this. So if it doesn't go down in the next hour, this part of the podcast is going to be moot. But let's pretend that it's actually going down. You've got Miami. Now you got Brooklyn. Their big three looks completely different. You got half a Kyrie. You got a banged-up Kevin Durant. Now you add Ben Simmons to that. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, they add James Harden with Joel Embiid plus Milwaukee now. Where are the Bucks in this pantheon after these moves here on trade deadline day?
I mean, obviously, the Sixers think they get better because they get more star power. Ben Simmons wasn't playing, so they got another star. But
you get a human being on the floor. Like, that's a bonus.
Right, exactly. But, I mean, Harden, I don't know. He has had trouble with chemistry with other players, I think, especially trading midseason like this and getting thrown into it with Joel Embiid, who is another player who at times causes friction with teammates. I don't know if they'll be able to pull out a playoff run, but I like the Bucks' chances still of come playoff time being able to use their flexibility with their lineup to, defeat whoever they want in a 7-game series. Obviously, it'll be tough, especially with Philadelphia, I believe. But I don't know. I think Harden just has a penchant for kind of falling apart when times get tough, and I think that bodes well for the Bucks. So,
well, Mitch, it's tough to play in the NBA when you're a fat guy. So it's difficult for James Harden because he's fat. He's out of shape. The dude's incredibly talented, one of the greatest scorers the game has ever seen. I hate his game. He's honestly my least favorite superstar I've ever watched play in the NBA. I hate his game. I do like the fact that the rules have changed to take away some of the things where he leans into everybody, the Trae Young rule. But he's still a star. And Embiid's still a star, and this is still a star-driven league. They have some weeks now to figure out their chemistry. I'm not saying that's a team I'm going to pick to upset Milwaukee. I would love to see a Philadelphia-Brooklyn Eastern Conference semifinal. I think that would be so much fun for the rest of us to watch. But that's still two superstars with a lot to prove because Embiid's like, get me somebody, we can make a run. Harden's like, I can't do it here. Put me somewhere for like the 14th straight team. Put me somewhere where, but this could be the team that comes out of the East to battle Milwaukee to go to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. You're right though with Harden. I've never liked him since I've started watching him on the Rockets. Like watching Rockets game is like, okay, let Harden dribble for 20 seconds and then do a step back 3 at the buzzer or something.
But he hits that 3, but it's ugly.
I mean, he shoots a lot, and his percentage is like a little bit above average. So it's like you take what you get. I don't know. But his assists would be up high just because he's passing the last second of the shot clock or open right down low by the hoop. But, I mean, I just don't think Harden's a great team guy. Maybe he'll switch it someday. But if he can't make it work in Brooklyn when he's got the other 2 superstars, and he feels like he needs to get out of that situation, like, I don't know what he needs at this point. So
the big 3 in Brooklyn, I mean, it was on paper a year ago before all the COVID stuff happened. That was it. Kyrie can't stay healthy, story of his career. Harden not healthy, Harden not in shape, story of his career. Kevin Durant that far away, with his big ass feet like he's talking about, almost did it pretty much on his own because he had about a 60% Harden and he had no Kyrie. Now that's going to be dissolved. Before we get out of here, Mitch, I know you have to run. The buyout market is going to be interesting. Goran Dragic got dished from Toronto to the Spurs. Everybody's talking about a buyout there. What would Dragic do that Dante DiVincenzo couldn't do?
I think Dragic would hit threes more consistently, but also just, I don't know. Dante always had a penchant for mental mistakes like turnovers, especially this season. I know he was coming off an injury, but you think even before then he had some like really mental or big mental lapses. And I think Dragic would just kind of, how you put that, put it all together and not create so many mistakes, essentially. I mean, as long as he's not hurting the Bucks, I'm cool with it. It's hard for me to get over how dirty he did us in the playoffs a couple of years, but
you know what? It'd be nice to not have to face him again. Wherever he winds up, it'd be nice to not, because he was a stone cold killer a couple of years ago in the bubble. Last year he wasn't healthy, but he's still a couple of games wrecked Milwaukee early. Now Milwaukee won that series, but he still wrecked Milwaukee statistically.
Yeah, I think ironically he was the one who ended up injuring Dante last year too, off a little shove he gave him. So now if you add him and get rid of Dante, that's kind of bad omen, I think, maybe, but we'll see.
Is it poetic? Is it a Hollywood ending? I don't know. We can get into the buyout market when it does happen. I'm sure I'm going to have to revise this podcast coming up in just a few days when the Bucks start trying to figure out. Because once Greg Monroe's 10-day contract is done, they're going to have 3 roster spots to fill. It'll be interesting to see what they do. There's some other factors in this about going in the luxury tax, and nobody cares about it. Fans don't care about that stuff. Fans want to know, can we run it back? The move today, Serge Ibaka. Mitch, thanks for coming on, man. I think we can agree the Bucks are better than they were when you and I woke up this morning.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Anytime. There's Mitch Lang. You can follow him on Twitter. I am Mitch Lang, wisportsheroics.com. My name is Mike Wickett. This has been an emergency podcast for Wickett on Wisconsin. As always, go Pack, go Bucks, and go Brewers.